Another blue-collar union in Canada has thrown its support behind Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. An ex-premier of British Columbia says that people should vote for the Conservatives. Mark Carney says that if you give him 2 or 3 years to make a decision, he might begin one large infrastructure project in Canada. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name's Sterling. I'm your host. I picked up this post from the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers 2067, who are based in Saskatchewan. The IBEW Local 2067, representing over 2,200 workers across Saskatchewan, are proud to endorse the Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre for Prime Minister. And that's essentially what the first paragraph of the post says. And then it says, of the letter that's posted there, says, and then it says, Pierre has earned our respect. It is time to put Canadian workers first for a change. So now we are talking about the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers supporting Pierre Poilievre in all kinds of provinces, whether they be locals. Not to mention some of the largest police forces in Canada are also supporting the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre. I think that it indicates people are tired of the same. They're tired of the high crime. They're tired of the expensive houses. They're tired of getting nothing done. They're tired of the year after year hearing the Liberals tell us all that it's all going to happen tomorrow sometime, but tomorrow never comes. It's all just one giant delay. Pierre Poilievre is the one that's going to solve or at least try to solve some of the problems that the Liberals have invited into our country for the last 10 years. Mark Carney is going to continue doing the same. The Liberal Party is 86% the same as they were under Justin Trudeau. You can't expect to do the same thing with the same people and have a different outcome. Just simply will never, ever, ever happen that way. I picked this up from CBC Watcher, former BC Liberal Premier Gordon Campbell. Quote, Canada's economy is in decline. Per capita GDP is at the bottom of the OECD list. The flight of capital has reduced opportunity and hopes for the young in every region. The massive Liberal debt build-up will not be paid for a generation. Healthcare we had will be distant memory for our children. Carney wants to borrow more. If this continues, we strip our children of their future. Mr. Carney in the Liberal plan reinforces the status quo, stifles our resource sector, borrows more, spends more, taxes more, and increases the debt our children and grandchildren will have to pay. It means a rising cost of living and stagnant paychecks. It damages Canada's economic future and divides our country. Their policies undermine Canada as one country. Policies that divide hold Canada back. Forget Trump. Vote for Canada. Vote for its future. Vote for the next generation and for a Canada ready to take on the future. Independent and free to pursue Canadian dreams. Close quote. And I believe that he says it all right there, that he's a Liberal and understands the economic destruction that is coming forward because of the Liberal policies, because of the Liberal mindset, because of the Liberal ideas of totalitarian and authoritarianism, centralization, Marxism. You know, Mark Carney just wants to enrich Brookfield with the modular home deal. He doesn't want to solve the problems. He only wants to make it so that he benefits while the rest of us do without. The other day, Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre were invited onto the same CBC French television channel, which is apparently quite popular. Now the channel asked Mark Carney such riveting questions as, what's his favorite TV show in Quebec, while they asked Pierre Poilievre to explain why Donald Trump hired Elon Musk. Nonetheless, Pierre Poilievre did a post on a couple of answers answer from each of them to the same question on infrastructure projects, and I believe that what Mark Carney says is really telling.
Il faut choisir quelques projets, quelques grands projets, pas nécessairement des pipelines, mais peut-être des pipelines. On verra.
C'est l'espoir qu'on a maintenant, c'est on peut renverser les politiques qui ont créé cette faiblesse, stimuler l'investissement ici au Canada, approuver des projets à travers le Canada, y compris des pipelines, pour être vrai, pour contrôler l'économie américaine, avoir accès aux autres marchés et devenir plus autosuffisant. Et c'est ça la distinction entre les deux partis. Les autres partis veulent garder la même direction qui nous a affaiblis. Moi, je veux une nouvelle direction et un vrai changement.
I mean, we hear it from Mark Carney's own mouth. He just wants to sit around and talk some more. He just wants to say, well, we'll make a plan to make a plan. We'll have a meeting to make a plan about having a meeting. I mean, it's just more of the same Liberal stall tactics, more of the Liberal delay, all the while They will be making billions of dollars disappear from the Canadian coffers. They will be borrowing money that we don't have and putting us into generational debt, demanding that we do without carbon, while Mark Carney and his friends fly around in private jets, live in enormous mansions with the air conditioning running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in their private cars, on their private yachts. I don't think that we need to be waiting any longer. We've waited long enough. Anybody who's looking at the question honestly can see that there's all sorts of infrastructure problems. There's all sorts of infrastructure solutions, and we should be doing not one or two, but all of them. We should just be, if we're going to borrow money to go into debt and all of that, we should be borrowing money to put shovels in the ground, put people to work, because at least then it will generate an income. At least then it will revive the flagging economy. We should be the number one country in the OECD, but if not number one, at least top three. Not 39th out of 40. But Mark Carney just wants to sit around and talk for 2 years and then pick maybe one project to start, or perhaps two, whether that be a pipeline or not. He doesn't seem to care, because he has pipelines that he owns in Brazil, he has pipelines that he owns in Saudi Arabia, and he has pipelines that he owns in the USA. So it benefits him. Every second that Canada doesn't have other pipelines going east and west, every second that Canada's production is not anywhere near that of other countries, he makes a lot of money. On your back, he's making all of that money. He's getting rich with no care for the ethical implications, while you scrape, while you suffer, while you worry, while you go through all of the problems that poverty brings to every person ever since the beginning of time. There's only one choice. While I was making this video, Marty up north made a post out of something that Blanchet said in the French debate tonight at time of recording, and he puts it here, another good idea from Blanchet, and I will agree. He wants to allow parents to transfer RRSPs to their children tax-free, and then it can be used for down payments or for, on their homes or for other things that they may need. It's a very good idea. It's an excellent idea, and Mark Carney didn't care for it. I didn't think that Pierre Poilievre or Jagmeet Singh said anything, though certainly I don't believe that the Conservatives will oppose it. It's a very good idea. It's certainly something that will allow somebody who is already established to just allow that money to continue to grow, just like you would if you were, Mark Carney's class of rich, rich, rich. And then when the time was right, the child or grandchild could take that money, transfer it into their own bank account, keeping it at the tax-free rate, then utilizing it tax-free to make a down payment on their home. It's certainly better than the liberal idea of a tax-free savings account. I think that it's an excellent idea, and it points to what I've been saying the whole time. Francois Blanchet is an excellent politician. People underestimate him because he refuses to speak English. I mean, the man does himself a disservice by refusing to speak English. If he had spoke English more, then he would show people, what he's all about, and there would certainly be more of a groundswell from the NDP instead of all of them running over, like in the Quebec version, running over to the Liberal Party. They could maybe stop in his camp, because he's an excellent politician. I mean, he hates Canada, so there's that flaw. However, he doesn't care about the people that are living inside of Quebec. So people that would have gone for the NDP in Quebec could have, or are disillusioned with the Liberal Party in Quebec, could maybe get behind him if he were to articulate his message in both languages instead of just staunchly doing it in one language. Either way, I think it's a great idea what he recommends, that we should be able to transfer these RSPs to people without tax penalties for it. Mark Carney, who hides all of his money out in other countries and tax shelters, shouldn't be able to say anything against the idea. Of course, one of the other major differences between the Liberals and the Conservatives, between Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, is that Mark Carney wants to let all of the criminals out of prison. He believes that it's more important for us to censor what is said on X, a platform that he uses vociferously, than it is to keep hardened criminals behind bars where the society could be safe from them. One of his representatives running a Liberal candidate running in Ontario went so far as to say that it's better to keep them on house arrest because it saves the taxpayer some money. Of course, she leaves out how much it's going to cost the taxpayer in all of the problems when they become the victim.
And while Eric over here is opposed to having people on house arrest, we do have to acknowledge the fact that our prison system is incredibly costly. Housing somebody within the prison system is a huge burden on taxpayers versus having them on house arrest, for instance.
First of all, let me acknowledge that I picked that up from Canada Proud. All links will be in the description. Next, let me say that there's something wrong with the individual that runs for the Liberal Party who believes that she should be protected by the police in her home and when she's walking to her car in the dark, that she should have private security, that she should have all of this security given and granted to her, while people who cannot afford that, while people who do not have those luxuries should be subjected to wanton criminals being placed in their neighborhoods, in their areas, so that they can tell themselves that it's no big deal. I mean, let's be honest. House arrest amounts to being grounded, right? I mean, you just, it's this that the government can't come in and tell you that you're not allowed to play your PlayStation, but you're just essentially grounded. I mean, that's just the same thing as when you were 8 years old and your parents grounded you. You suffer no hardship that way. The individual that had the crime perpetuated against them will forever be living that crime. Of course, the Liberal government doesn't put any money into the mental health aspects of the individual, of the victim. So there's never any recourse for that person. They live under that fear for the rest of their lives. And this individual tells us that we got all kinds of tax dollars to give to Ukraine, but we don't have any tax dollars to put criminals in jail. Now, to me, there's a flaw in the logic there, or the lack of logic is really what we should be discussing there. Maybe it's just me, though. Maybe I need someone to explain it to me, because why would we give tax dollars to other countries to protect them while we ourselves cannot protect ourselves? Am I the only one who thinks that there's a serious problem in this philosophy? So if I understand this Liberal lady correctly, we shouldn't even bother arresting them because there's just too much effort. We could save a lot of money if we didn't send them to court. We could save a lot of money if we didn't pay them to be picked up by the police. We could save all kinds of money if we simply just gave up on law and order whatsoever. One of the last things that is a big contrast between the two parties, of course, is the housing crisis that the Liberals have caused. And now Mark Carney wants to enrich his friends and himself at the expense of the Canadian homeless, at the expense of the youth.
To my parents, Mom and Dad.
I'm posting this video for my parents.
Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa.
You've always done everything you could in your guys' power to give me a better life.
You worked hard. You bought a house. You put your kids through school.
And now we need to address the important issue that is currently going on.
Times have changed. Canada is no longer what it is.
We don't feel safe in our own neighborhoods.
I work in tech. How am I going to buy a house for myself before I'm 40? In this election, I need you to think about me and the younger generation.
Please, vote Conservative.
It's time to vote. It's time to vote Conservative.
And I'm challenging everyone to have a conversation with their parents to vote for Conservatives.
Give Canada another chance.
That was brought to us by Canada Proud, and they were young people asking their parents to vote Conservative so that they had a chance of owning a home and having a decent, balanced economy. Melissa Landsman posted something in the same theme. Liberals built a heck of a bureaucracy, but that didn't include actual homes, and now housing starts are down. They're down 38% in Ontario, and they're down 30% in BC. Mark Carney is promising the same costly bureaucratic plan. We can't afford a Liberal fourth term. There are some other interesting statistics that she places in this video, and I'm not going to show it here because I'm going to do an entire segment on the housing crisis and the fact that despite all of the promises and all of the billions of dollars thrown into the system, that housing starts are not picked up, that the economy is now back up over 3 for inflation, that employment is down, that the GDP is down. I mean, there's the economic destruction that's ripping through Canada while the Liberal Party tries to scare you with Trump, Trump, Trump. is pretty significant and pretty profound, and it needs to be, I guess, revitalized into the mindset of the Canadian people, who seem to have forgotten that it was only a couple of scant months ago that we were throwing Justin Trudeau out because we had no money, because we had no homes, because our dollar was worthless, because we couldn't go anywhere, because we, all of the reasons are still valid. They're still there. Switching out Mark Carney for Justin Trudeau didn't change any of that. The economy is still horrible, and it has nothing to do with Donald Trump. We are the only country in the world that's going to be set back by it, because our Liberal government wants to keep our productivity near zero, wants to keep our homes and every aspect of our lives controlled specifically and strictly by the Liberal Party, the same Liberal Party that brought you scandal after scandal after scandal after scandal. And in that, I will be touching on how Mark Carney now wants to come for your guns, while he surrounds himself with people that are armed to the teeth. However, in this one, I will just point out that for all of their talk, nobody's building new houses. Is that because it's too expensive? Is that because there's no materials? Is that because what? There's certainly no lack of demand for it. We can all agree on that everybody is ready to buy a house. Nobody wants a cubicle in the sky, unless maybe the retired individuals do, but not the young man or woman who's thinking about starting their life and starting a family and all of that stuff. They don't want that. They want a culture and a society that can provide for them the same comforts and the same enjoyment and the same prosperity that was provided to generations before them. I don't believe that the Liberal Party cares about any of that. I think that they see ways to enrich only a very few, and the rest of us will be scraping out an existence, eking out an existence, as they like to say. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.